Okay, I wanted to create this video because this information actually lives across 3 or 4 different other videos, and it deserves its own place. It deserves its own nice distilled, abridged version of how to protect yourself from overpaying on property. It's as simple as that. This leans on the levers that we have that we massage with price and terms when it gets to the contract stage, because you're in a very informed position by that stage, and everything you need to know, you now know. And then once it moves from the offer to acceptance stage and we move into the due diligence, then any other ambiguity is cleaned up. And if we need to make any adjustments, that's where we do it. This is also talking about aces in their places, and namely another video on how to value a property through the use of a professional or through the qualification that we use as buyer's agents and the tools available to us and you to the buyers, because essentially it's the same thing. And for a deep dive in that, that's where you need to head over to as well. But for the essence of this video, how do we bring all that together in a nice, succinct formula to protect yourself from overpaying? Well, let's define it. All right, so to define overpaying, I really want to frame this in your mind that overpaying only exists as a concept in your mind. The market's got nothing to do with it, and the agent or any other, I guess, influencers don't have anything to do with it. I can tell you countless occasions where my clients have overpaid on paper, set a street record in a declining market. I don't give a shit. If my clients see value at that number and it's where the seller has seen value and we've made a deal happen at that number, and I have informed my clients on where it should sit in the market, and they've decided to go to that other price for whatever reason, mainly because of scarcity and not wanting to miss that opportunity, and the seller going, I can leverage this and let's go. That's fine. If my clients want to pay it, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, I forbid you. We get the deal done. That is a really core concept of why I was driven to make this video. Overpaying only exists in your mind as buyers. So it comes with one fat caveat, and that is that you've done your bloody research. You understand where it sits in the current market with all the macro factors around it. You know what? Because I can attack this from the other angle and say, if you don't know that a piece of land is a gold mine, and you look at an old shitty house that's falling down and overrun and squatters are in it and blah, 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 and you don't know that that is about to be rezoned or has been rezoned with a DA for 50 apartments, and you see someone bought it, a developer, for $10 million, you're like, how the hell they've overpaid? Says who? Says you, the uninformed buyer. And the really important thing is that developers are very savvy. They're smart individuals. They make their money in a return on investment. It's a very mathematical, pragmatic decision. So they haven't freaking overpaid. They know exactly what they're doing. And exactly the same applies to any other piece of residential stock. And I'd encourage you to remember that when it comes to the price conversation, either with yourself, the conversation with yourself, or the conversation you're having with real estate agents, friends, any other influence, any other property experts, your best mate, the buyer's agent, whoever it is. It comes down to you and your decision on where you see value. Okay, so that should really be the end of the video, but I wanted to, I guess, see and talk about it as I think about it with you guys, about how it leverages the conversation of the evidence gathering we're doing over here, pre-offer and post-contract. And what that means is, again, the due diligence that we build into the contract that needs to be done after we've agreed on a ballpark price, I shouldn't say that, a contract price. And then if we need to tweak it because we find that there's some stuff that, is worse than what we thought, or needs we discover something really adverse about the property and we do a building and pest report and they're like, well, this whole roof needs to be, like, sometimes there's a walk away, but a lot of the time it's manageable through a reduction or a tweaking, or the terms need to change and therefore we need to, we can't meet our original obligations, so we need to inject a bit more cash in. That can be you overpaying and go, well, we only see value here, but now that we need another week, the seller's like, well, if you don't come up with some more money because we're getting some stronger offers over here, then we're going to pull the pin. Then you'd be like, I'm comfortable overpaying. I should use air quotes with all of this, but people listening to this on a podcast are going to find these useless. Was in a little sound. But overpaying, you're comfortable doing that because the risk to reward, the return on investment. I primarily don't work with flippers, people that are just doing and buying property to create manufactured growth. So they're just going to do a strip down and a reno. They're often owner builders and they're going to do this thing and then they're going to send it off into the sunset within 12 months. Those guys don't yet generally need my help. Like, I can show them opportunities, but their due diligence is acutely down to them, their skills, their assessment, their unique value proposition, and then they move through. They've done it 100 times. They know what they're talking about. They have existing relationships with agents because they're always shopping their stock. I don't tend to work with those guys. And why that's important is because their risk of overpaying is a value-based equation. They sit with developers. The risk of overpaying comes down to the owner-occupier, comes down to the emotional factor and what that looks like, because there's a market price and then there's an emotional price. I remember on my selling days, you'd put this on a whiteboard and you'd say, this is your market price, and what our job as real estate agents to do is to push this threshold and see how far this emotional price can get once we've got our perfect buyer. And how do we leverage the scarcity to get the best price for our seller? There's nothing disingenuous about it. There's nothing wrong or incorrect or immoral about it. It is doing the best job for our clients, and it's what you would expect as a seller as well on the other side of things. It's to be aware of it and to know when you are moving into that emotional territory. But overpaying, again, only exists as a mindset. So how we avoid it, as the title of the video, we get to a really informed position. We make sure that we are avoiding all the competition, which means we've acted quickly and swiftly and knocked them all out because they're not in a position to offer, because you've moved through your due diligence phase and got a super clean offer that can't be ignored and also can't be competed against. An uncomfortable price comes about when things like a multiple offer scenario are thrown in your face, saying that you've got to have your best and final. So you end up stretching yourself to an uncomfortable limit and going, well, this is now, I feel like I'm overpaying. See, it's led by I feel like, or I know I am because I've done my numbers and I've got a really comfortable position, but I feel like from what I've learned from the agent that I might need to inject another 20K, which I'm happy to pay for because obviously I'm putting my name on a contract at that number. And if I get it, then it's a win, and this is going to be my forever home, or it's been my dream home. And I know that after 10 years and the property market is Australia's biggest asset class here, you'll be just fine in most cases. So yeah, look, I think that's how we avoid it. We make sure we're super knowledgeable and we avoid the competition. And those two things, if you're paying attention along the transaction road, you should be pretty safe to avoid the classic overpaying and whoever's opinion that is. Cool, so that's it. So a final word, if your evidence-based approach doesn't yield much, then professional valuers are always there. There's a couple of videos I've got where I have discussions with a valuer and do a deep dive into what that can be used for and as a lever in the negotiation. So I encourage you to watch those to get a deeper understanding. How to price a property is super, super important, especially when we see so much of these price fields in REA and domain being just filled with words and no numbers. Go figure. I really think realestate.com should change that for the buyer and say, error, numbers only in this field, please. It's a price field. You can put a dollar sign and the rest needs to be numbers. But anyway, save from that happening anytime soon. The overpaying is protected by your due diligence over here and your assertion and your comfort in knowing your numbers, knowing your limit, and where you see value over this side. And that's it. And that third little bubble that we mentioned earlier as well, which is avoiding the competition. Any environment where you're not up against other people and you're in a pressure cooker where the risk of overpaying is inevitably higher because emotions are on the line and you want to beat the competition, then yeah, this is another, I guess, a really good way to avoid the classic overpaying scenario is by eliminating the competition, getting in early, using what you've learned in some of the other videos and how to source and how to find and discover off-market and pre-market opportunities, or getting yourself a buyer's agent. Again, a shameless self-plug, because this is our job. It's to avoid and protect our clients from the classic overpaying in that example. So with that all said, hopefully this really helps you buy better, and I'll see you in the next video.